Welcome to I Hate James Dobson. I can't imagine having 18 siblings. My parents, and now Brooke, struggle to remember my name now.
I said I was
Welcome to I Hate James Dobson. My name is Jake. I'm a former
Rub it in, why don't you?
Welcome to I Hate James Dobson. My name is Jake. I'm a former evangelical turned queer sex therapist. And today, I'm once again thrilled to be joined by the valiant, valued Victor, whose venerable visage is worthy of Vogue's vaulted vanguard. Also, she's vaccinated. Hi, Brooke.
Hi.
Brooke, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. My quiver is so full. Oh my god. Oh no. I made you choke.
I didn't have to sip yet of my drink. Brooke, how are you feeling coming into part 2 of the Duggars?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling like I've had some whiskey.
Uh-huh.
I'm feeling like, what else are we going to say about the Duggars? I don't know. This is going to be your time to shine.
Yes.
And ready for it.
I appreciate how off the cuff you're able to speak.
Well, thank you.
I have a script.
Okay, great.
Which I think really speaks to the difference in our personality. Last time we talked with the Duggars through the lens of freak shows and the appeal of that. Brooke, what other freak shows have captured your attention throughout your life?
Well, I don't know. I watched American Horror Story Freak Show.
I got into American Horror Story for a bit.
But I stopped watching halfway through because
It was bad.
It was so bad.
Yeah. The first half was fun.
God, wasn't Neil Patrick Harris in it?
He was. And I love Neil Patrick Harris. That was not his best role.
No. His best role was obviously Doogie Howser. You don't know what that is, do you?
I know what Doogie Howser is.
Oh my God. Freak shows. Okay, American Horror Story Freak Show.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to humanize the freaks. Not great.
But also didn't really.
But didn't really. Still just kind of freak showed the freaks. There was a play about freak shows I saw once. I mean, people are always trying to the movie Freaks.
Mm.
Have you ever seen that?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
You've heard of it because it's the place where this famous quote that goes, "One of us, one of us."
Oh, that's from that?
Geeble, gobble, gooble, gobble, one of us. From 1936.
Wow.
Yeah, Freaks. I know that in freak shows, I think I talked about this last time, there were all kinds of people with just things going on.
Yeah, just not quote unquote normal, but relatively normal deformities.
Here's one thing I'll talk about, which is that one of the major things in freak shows was what they called gigantism or elephantitis, right? And Elephant Man, there was a movie that was like that. And what it really is now is lymphedema, right? Which I have. And also Kathy Bates has. And she was in American Horror Story.
She sure
Freak
was.
Show. Mm-hmm.
I love Kathy Bates.
She's actually the spokesperson for lymphedema, which is interesting.
Interesting.
So I wasn't real sure what she was doing in that.
But she was a bearded lady in that.
Yeah, so it got confusing. But that's what I know about freak shows.
I think my first real fascination with the freak shows was Phantom of the Opera.
Is there a freak show in Phantom of the Opera?
That's what the Phantom is. He was a freak in a freak show with a physical deformity in his face, and then he was tired of being a freak, and so he murdered his captors, and then the Madame of the... Do you not remember any of this?
No.
Wow. Just the whole backstory. That's how he came to the opera house. She helped him escape and put him in the dungeon, but he's a genius who created this whole underground layer and all this music and...
My God.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know any of that backstory.
You apparently haven't watched the movie 1,000 times.
I used to play the Phantom of the Opera tapes.
Hell yeah.
In my furnished basement, and I would act them out before you were even born, and I would do the entire both sides of the tapes while my mom made dinner.
As well you should.
And I would just put on a wig and some clothes and sing, "Wishing you were somehow here again," and sing the whole entire thing.
When I was in kindergarten, maybe first grade, Kevin's class went to go see Phantom of the Opera as like a school assignment. They did a whole unit about it. And I was like, I want to go. And my parents were like, no, you're like 5. We're not going to pay for you to go see a musical theater show. You're not going to enjoy it. And so out of spite, I learned all of the music from it.
I love your little Scorpio-ass bitch self.
Last time, Brooke brought me up to speed on the pop culture phenomenon of the Duggar family. Despite being fairly close theologically, I never really knew more than they have a lot of kids because Quiverful and Josh Duggar is a pedophile. Today, it's my turn to take the wheel on our exploration of the Duggars. While I don't know much about them and didn't watch their TV show, I'm very familiar with their theology. So for our episode today, I have 2 main sources, the same sources as last time. First, I read a 2023 memoir by Jill Duggar and her husband, Derek Dillard, with help from Craig Borlase. I still don't know his name. My apologies, Craig. You're a good writer. Called Counting the Cost. I also watched the Amazon Prime series Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets, which was also released in 2023. Jill's book and the series are very similar. There's a lot of overlap. I probably didn't need to watch and engage with both of them, but I did. Although I'm very familiar with the theology underpinning the Duggar family, I wanted to engage with the first-hand accounts. These aren't abstract concepts. They have real consequences for real human beings. And I think in our discussion, I always want to center the human cost.
Okay, you can cut this, but I have to ask you a really quick question I meant to ask you in the last episode. So you weren't, like, watching the Duggars. Your family wasn't watching the Duggars.
I've never seen a single episode of it.
And your church wasn't, like, promoting the Duggars.
No.
Nobody cared about the Duggars.
My church was promoting Duck Dynasty.
Okay.
I cannot overemphasize. That was the Christian television show.
But they weren't like, hey, we love the Duggars.
No.
Okay. Did your church or your family or anyone around you have anything? Did they have anything to say when Josh Duggar stuff happened?
I don't remember anyone talking about it.
It just was like.
I heard it through like various other news outlets.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How come?
Partly we didn't have to, right? Like, we weren't super affiliated with them. We'll get into it. Southern Baptist Convention, the church I was a part of at the time, which I've such a hatred for, is pretty complicit in a lot of the things, but they had just enough distance that we'd be like, oh, that's the other type of... Those are the crazy evangelicals.
Okay.
And I think that's a big part of why we were not, like, involved with Duggar stuff generally. It was like, well, we're, like, the reasonable evangelicals.
Oh, okay.
We're not, like, the crazy ones out there who have, like, 19 kids, which... Other than having 19 kids, I knew people who had pretty much the exact same upbringing as the Duggars, but that is like the freak show, the spectacle, got us to have a little bit of distance. We're not like them.
Okay, got it.
We're going to take a trip through history, and we're going to start this episode by talking about Jim Bob, the patriarch of the Duggar family. Jim Bob Duggar was born in 1965 in Springdale, Arkansas. He has one older sister. That is the entire extent of the family. Mom, dad, brother, sister. When Jim Bob was 17, he and a friend went door to door talking to families who had visited their church. The friend suggested they talk to a cheerleader who had recently converted to evangelicalism, a girl named Michelle Rourke. Rourke?
I know some of this story.
Michelle says that when they first met, they talked about the Bible for hours, and she had a conversion experience. The actual timeline of events gets kind of muddled in the telling and retelling, and they've told the story very many times. On Christmas Eve in 1983, when Jim Bob was 18, he proposed to Michelle. After talking with her father, Jim Bob and Michelle got married 3 months after Michelle graduated high school. She was 17 and he was 19, which sounds like a nightmare to me. But they were happy, I suppose. Jim Bob talks about, quote, I was buying a little $19,000 house. My only note here is get fucked. $19,000 in today's money is $62,452.30. They were in North Carolina. Today, the median price of a house in North Carolina is $367,000. Mm-hmm. This is unrelated to the Duggars, but just like, man, we're so fucked. It's so bad.
Yeah, and everyone's like, how come you don't buy a house? How come you don't own things?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't millennials buying diamonds?
I have to rent my YouTube streaming service. I pay for that by the month. 5 years later, in 1988, they had their first child, the monster of the person we know as Josh Duggar. At this time, Jim Bob and Michelle were using contraceptives, specifically oral contraceptive, the pill, to do more intentional family planning. After Josh's birth, they resumed using birth control. However, Michelle still became pregnant and miscarried.
Yep.
This was a radicalizing moment for them. As a result of this, the pair decided to stop using birth control altogether and, quote, allow God to determine the amount of children we would have. From their biography, quote, through this difficult time, we began to read in the Bible that children are a blessing and a gift from God. Parentheses, Psalm 127, 1 through 5. We asked God to give us a love for children like he loves children, and to forgive us for not desiring to receive his gifts. It was then that we asked God to give us as many children as he saw fit. Pause. The idea of children being a blessing is very common in their type of theology. Kids are great. It is a joy to bring a new human life into the world. And I'm a little bit biased. There was recently a new member of our family brought in, and so I'm a little bit starry-eyed about it. But I do think children are a blessing.
Yeah.
But they're saying to not want kids or to be intentional about kids or to use birth controls to reject a blessing from God. And that feels problematic to me.
Right.
That's when it starts feeling a little bit gross.
Right. And not everyone is resourced for 19 children.
No.
Right? And not everyone is healthy enough to carry 19 children.
No. Pregnancy and childbirth are incredibly taxing experiences,
Right.
even in the best circumstances. It is a lot on the human body. It's also a lot on the family, especially in our capitalistic hellscape. It's a lot of like financial expenditure.
And like you said in the last episode, when you don't have a television program providing you with lots of money, like, yeah, how do you live in a small house and you have a small amount of resources? How do you fund this? Mm-hmm. Right.
Also, this isn't the main point, but condoms never come up in the conversation. It's always about her taking birth control.
Right.
And him using condoms is never even brought up as a possibility. Mm-hmm. I don't have any other way of saying this that feels less crude. It just was too important for him to nut inside of her. I don't know. I've tried to workshop like a better way of saying this. And ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. It's about his pleasure, not hers.
Right.
Famously, they kept having kids after this. I probably have to cut this. I wrote, once you pop, the fun don't stop.
Oh my God. Well, I think, so they had Josh and then a miscarriage, right?
Yes.
And then I think next they had twins.
Yes.
And so they were like, look, that was like proof to them.
Yes.
Right? So they were like, okay, we had monster baby, and then we had a miscarriage, and then we made this decision to be blessed by God, and look what happened. We had twins.
Absolutely.
Right.
So Josh was born in 1988. The twins were born in 1990. Mm-hmm. And then they've had kids in 1990, 1991, 1992, 1993, 95, 96, 97, 98, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2004, 2005, 2007, 2008, 2009, and 2011. God. And the baby in 2011 was also a miscarriage, which is a tragic experience. But that means that Michelle Duggar was pregnant pretty much consistently for more than 20 years.
Pregnant or breastfeeding.
Yes. And sometimes both.
Yeah.
So apologies. In some ways, I have lied. This episode isn't really about the Duggars. I mean, it is, but it really is about a man named Bill Gothard. I don't know what we actually will title this episode when it gets released, but as of right now, this script is titled Episode 36, Bill Gothard Can Eat My Whole Ass, parentheses pejorative. I don't think Apple Podcasts will like that as a title.
Do they ever censor your titles?
Well, we're a small independent podcast, so no, but we won't show up in a lot of searches if that is what we title it.
Or if you title it Nut Insider.
Episode 36, Nut Inside. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Brooke.
Yeah.
I asked this at the end of the last episode. You've heard the name of Bill Gothard.
Only because I watched Shiny Happy People a while ago.
What do you know about Bill Gothard?
Literally anything that was in that documentary is what I know.
But it's also been a second since you watched the documentary.
Yes.
What sticks in your brain about him?
I remember him being like, to be honest, I recalled him being like their cult leader.
Yes. Actually, we'll talk about cults in a second. I think it's a very fair label.
Yeah.
Continue.
Like he's sort of their Jim Dobson. Why am I calling him Jim tonight?
It's funny.
A lot. He's their James Dobson. He's their cult leader. He's their like go-to guy. He's not alive, right?
No, he's still alive.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Rotten piss.
Oh, yeah. And he's the one that runs their sect of evangelicalism, or he makes the rules. I don't remember.
Sure.
Bad guy.
Yes. Very bad guy.
Yeah. And from what I understand, they're the ILBS. Is that right? IBLS?
That's close. No, but that's close.
Okay.
We'll get into it.
And whatever it is that they are, because I keep saying quiverful, but that's like a theology, but they actually belong to something else, right?
Yes.
And whatever it is, some of them, I did just look this up like last week, they're all still Christian and evangelical, but some of them have broken away from the Bill Gothard part of it. Mm-hmm. Mostly the girls, I noticed, not so much the boys.
Interesting how that happens. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Well, they just really wanted to wear pants.
Which is such a liberating... I'm sure I don't mean to downplay it. For them, I'm sure it is a liberating experience. But also, in the realm of human experience, like, it's pants.
I remember, and he was old man?
He is now.
Yeah. That's kind of all I remember. I remember he was scary and bad.
Cool. You remember, actually, a good deal.
Yeah.
I don't imagine that you do, and it's totally fine that you don't. Do you know what the acronym of the church stands for? Whatever...
What are the letters again?
IBLP.
IBLP. No.
That's totally fine. We're actually going to talk about that a decent amount as well.
Okay.
Let's talk about Bill Gothard.
Yeah.
Who can eat my whole ass. Again, parentheses pejorative. Sometimes it's nice to have your ass eaten. Bill Gothard was born November 2nd, 1934, in Hillsdale, Illinois. He had 5 siblings. I put the amount of siblings that they have in because this idea of having as many kids as you want is, again, a relatively new concept.
Yeah.
Evangelicals, especially fundamentalists, which are kind of the same thing, are like really like this like constructed idea of history of we're trying to return back to something. They're not. They're building something entirely new that's ahistorical and also bad. But their attempts to be like, we're doing it how they used to do is just total bullshit.
Right.
Bill Gothard's dad was involved in various evangelical ministries, including being the executive director of Gideon's International. Does this name...
Yes.
Do you know what it is?
No, it sounds familiar. We've talked about it.
We haven't talked about it, but I'm sure you know about it because Gideon's International are most well known for being the reason that every hotel room has a Bible in it.
Yeah, we did talk about that.
We haven't.
We haven't?
No.
Oh, Gideon's is the ones that put the Bibles in the hotels then,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Bill Gothard grew up deep in the evangelical sauce to begin with. And also, not just like as an evangelical, like as kind of a higher up in the evangelical. There's an executive level to his family in this culture. Growing up in evangelical spaces, Bill Gothard was encouraged to dedicate his life to God, to the point that when he was 15, he decided to work to help teens and their families, quote, make wise choices. This is a phrase I see quoted often when talking about Gothard, making wise choices. Imagine being 15 and saying, let me tell parents what to do, how to parent. I started being a therapist at 21. That is really young, and I had a lot of insecurities about it. And honestly, I feel like I had the right training and was able to do that. I wasn't going to tell parents how to parent at that time. My caseload was not parents. 15? That's bananas. According to People.com, quote, he went on to work with church youth groups, inner city gangs, high school clubs, and families in crisis before he graduated high school. I think children, youth, teenagers have wisdom, have knowledge. We should listen to them. Maybe don't take life advice from them. We're going to see like a pretty, spoiler alert, we're going to see a pretty strong theme of narcissism throughout Bill Gothard's life. You have to be in order to be a cult leader. And from this young age, people are saying, you know what to tell, you know what to say to us. When he didn't have the knowledge base or the life experience to help people make informed decisions in this way. In 1957, Bill earned a Bachelor's of Arts in Biblical Studies from Wheaton College, a private evangelical college in Wheaton, Illinois, that is sometimes called the Harvard of private Christian colleges. It's pretty well known. Wheaton has a complicated history. It was founded by evangelical abolitionists. It was a stop on the Underground Railroad to help enslaved black people escape their captors. And it graduated one of Illinois' first black college graduates, which is pretty rad. They also produced Bill Gothard and has been listed among the least hospitable colleges for LGBTQ people in the United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. Their history is complicated. I wrote, so it's a mixed bag, but I'm not a fan of Wheaton College.
Okay.
In 1961, Bill got his master's in Christian education also from Wheaton. So he went right from undergrad into master's. After finishing this leg of his academic career, he was ordained and started a youth ministry called Campus Teams. He continued his public speaking career, and a few years later, he gave his first public seminar. It was titled Basic Youth Conflicts and was given at Wheaton College. He was developing an organization at this time, which changed its name to Institute in Basic Youth Conflicts in 1974 to match the title of this seminar that he would give. This is 74, right? This is the 70s. This is when Dobson was also taking off. There was something in the water in the U.S. We are primed for a fundamentalist movement, I guess. I want to take a short little detour. We've talked about this before in like this historical moment of the 70s, but Brooke, from your vantage point, why do you think the 70s were such a time people were so ripe for this like fundamentalist resurgence?
Well, I think because it was a reaction to like the 60s.
Yeah.
Right? So there had been this kind of like post-war, like 40s, 50s, Vietnam and all this stuff, right? Like, so.
Yeah.
But I think it was sort of this kind of like make America great again 70s style.
Yes.
Right? So it was like, people are getting a little too much activism, too much like freedom, too much free will. We want to get everyone back in line.
Yeah.
Right?
I am not a historian. I love history. I'm not trained in history. And there are people who have dedicated their entire lives to understanding what the 60s and 70s meant in especially the United States and around the world. To vastly oversimplify it, the 60s especially were a time of cultural upheaval. We got the civil rights movement, we got feminism, we got anti-war protests, and this myth of America as this like global superpower who's the like champion of unquestioned good because we beat the Nazis was really starting to come into question. Our ideas of patriarchy and gender roles and capitalism was really getting questioned in a real meaningful way. And from my vantage point, from the best I can understand, the resurgence of evangelical fundamentalism was a reaction to that. Everyone was questioning, what does it mean to be a good person? What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to do all these things? Let's do some drugs about it. Let's explore sexual liberation. This was a way to give people answers. And also, some of the things didn't work out pretty well. I think the quote-unquote hippie movement is a lot more nuanced than evangelicals want to make it out to seem. But a lot of people had really bad experiences with that. A lot of people had bad acid trips or felt it was really unfulfilling for the things they were looking for, which I think is fair. And so they said, well, this didn't work for me. Let me try Jesus. And in a time of questioning, having someone who gave you black and white answers, here's the truth, let me just give you step-by-step how to be a good person, can be really comforting for people. To me, that's why we were so primed for this fundamentalist resurgence. So, the Institute in Basic Youth Conflicts was a smashing success. This let Bill branch out his teaching to things like financial problems and homeschooling. To reflect this growth and expansion, the organization changed its name again in 1989, this time with a name that will strike fear into the heart of many, the Institute in Basic Life Principles, IBLP. In 1984, Bill Gothard also developed the Advanced Training Institute, ATI, which served as Gothard's homeschooling curriculum. Although to call it a curriculum is generous, it consisted of 54 wisdom booklets, which were pamphlets teaching subjects like science, although not really science, and math, although not a lot of math, based on Bill Gothard's personal interpretations of the Bible. Institute in Basic Life Principles. What does that mean?
It's like a whole mess.
Sure.
Isn't it? Institute of Basic Life Principles. It's like, for Bill Gothard, right? Like these are like the rules.
Yeah.
Right? So this is where a lot of the like modesty and how to live, the quiverful stuff, isn't that where this comes from?
It's a lot of it. But just look at the words. Institute and Basic Life Principles. What do those words mean?
How to live.
Kind of. They also mean nothing.
Oh, well, right. Yeah.
Right. Like the most generous interpretation is like, here are rules to live. Here are the basic principles of life.
Yeah.
Sure. That's not descriptive of anything.
Right.
The ATI, the Advanced Training Institute, that also means nothing. Right. That is not descriptive.
Also, institute.
Yeah. Institute comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Bill Gothard loves acronyms. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. this is such a deep cut. If you ever played Miss Pac-Man, they have cut screens. One of them is called Act 2 They Meet. This is Act 2 They Meet. From Jill's book, Counting the Cost, quote, "When I was 12 or 13, I went to a seminar," Pops told us. "That's when I first heard about the power of music and the dangers of rock and roll. It's not just the lyrics, but the music itself. When the drums get going, that backbeat has so much power over us. It can control us. That night when I arrived home, I realized that the music I'd been listening to was not Christ-honoring, because it was basically rock music with Christian words added on."
Well, that's interesting because that's so different from your experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Skillet is specifically Christian rock. Skillet, the lead singer John Cooper, which thumbs down on John Cooper, talked about how his mom didn't let him listen to rock music because of the drum beat. And so in some ways, Skillet is in reaction to some of these principles. Mm-hmm. Even though, again, big thumbs down on Skillet.
Yeah.
Back to the quote by Jim Bob. "I was so convicted that I immediately got my 8 tracks and took a hammer and busted them up." That seminar was a Bill Gothard seminar.
Oh, God.
Jim Bob Duggar was a student of Bill Gothard's from 12 or 13.
Wow.
Like early adolescence. Mm-hmm. Part 2 of this script, I have a match made in hell, is what I've titled this. Again, from Jill's book. Quote, "I never had to look far to be reminded of the ways that our family was different to others. It took an 11-hour drive in our beat-up RV for me to discover how similar we were to others. It was the mid to late 1990s. We were attending a conference in a basketball arena in the University of Tennessee, and the venue itself was enough to make my eyes pop. Wherever I looked, there were people who looked just like us. Families with identically dressed children, girls in matching floral blouses and skirts that reached down to the ground, boys in navy or khaki pants and button-down shirts. Parents marshaling their family units around the arena, some with 4 or 5 kids, others close to 20. Having spent the first years of my life being taught how different we are from other people, it was almost shocking to see how many people who dressed like the Duggars. The conference was the Advanced Training Institute Family Conference and been organized by the IBLP, the same group that was behind the seminar that made such an impact on Pops. He and Mom started to follow the teachings together as soon as they'd gotten married, but this was our first trip as a family to the annual conference designed to encourage and equip homeschooling families like ours." It goes on to talk about the pageantry of it. Quote, "Eventually, Mr. Gothard stepped away from the lectern and invited other people to join him. I watched as a handful of parents with young babies walked nervously onto the stage. 'These are our reversal babies,' said Mr. Gothard. At the point, the whole arena exploded into applause."
What are reversal babies?
What do you think reversal babies are?
Babies born after parents stopped using contraceptives?
Kind of. Men who got vasectomies
Oh.
and got them reversed.
Ugh.
Back to the quote, "I didn't need any explanation when the next group of people were invited up. It was a family, perfectly dressed, dad leading a perfectly dressed mom with 8 perfectly dressed children following behind. They all smiled, they all moved with grace and elegance across the stage, arranging themselves in a perfect semicircle in front of a microphone. Mr. Gothard interviewed the dad briefly about how his business was prospering and how his family was such a blessing, and then stepped back as the family prepared to launch into song. This, I would later discover, was an IBLP tradition. They were a model family. Capital M, capital F, a model family. The annual conference became a regular fixture in our family calendar, and we also started attending other, smaller IBLP events throughout the years. Through these trips, I learned more about what it meant to live according to Mr. Gothard's principles. At first, my parents didn't send us any kids groups, mainly because the groups cost money, but also because they preferred to keep us with them so we could get the full benefits of the teaching. I would sit and take copious notes on the importance of avoiding alcohol or submitting to the authority of my parents at all ages, even after marriage. Each seminar would end with a call for people to raise their hands as a sign that they were pledging to follow whatever IBLP principle had just been explained. I felt the pressure to prove my dedication to God, so it never took long before my hand was in the air."
This is Jill's book?
This is Jill's book. Part 3, Becoming a Model Family, a.k.a. getting the approval from Dad Jim Bob never got as a kid.
I just wanted to tell you one thing really quick that you can cut. The last Duggar baby that was stillborn was a girl, and her name was Jubilee. Mm-hmm. I just wanted you to know that her name was Jubilee.
I did know that. Do you know what Jubilee is biblically?
What?
The year of Jubilee is a biblical thing. Generally, it's this time that Christians, evangelicals, think about like the coming back of Christ, and Jubilee is like a celebration. This was also in Christian law and tradition. Every 7 years, you'd have the year of Jubilee, where you freed every slave and forgave every debt. And so, a somewhat common meme I'll see in like evangelical kind of snarky communities is like, you want us to live in a theocratic society? Cool. Forgive my student loans after 7 years.
Okay, one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Julie.
That is such a good point. No, there's not a Julie.
Or Julia. Or Juliet.
So at this time, when the Duggars were getting involved with the IBLP in a pretty like formalized way, going to their seminars as a family, Jim Bob was a used car salesman, and both him and Michelle were real estate agents.
Oh, interesting.
Again, this is somewhat of a tangent. Not all used car salesmen are like scummy, but it is like kind of a famously scummy career. And it does not surprise me at all that both Jim Bob and Josh Duggar were used car salesmen.
Yeah.
It certainly fits a stereotype. Any used car salesman listeners out there, we love you, we support you. You're one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Gold Star ally.
Thanks for listening.
Jim Bob began a career in politics in 1998, around the same time they were getting involved with the IBLP. Jim Bob won his election and became a member of the Arkansas House of Representatives for the 6th District in 1999. He served 2 terms, so he was a successful politician in some ways. And in his career, he was vice chair of the House Corrections and Criminal Law Subcommittee, and also worked in the Insurance and Commerce and Judiciary Committees. He was pretty involved in the Arkansas House of Representatives, which is not the U.S. House of Representatives. There's a state version of that. That's an important distinction because in 2002, Jim Bob ran a primary campaign against U.S. Senator Tim Hutchinson for the United States Senate, the like big formal Senate. Hutchinson fucking whooped his ass. It was not even close. It was a blowout. But Jim Bob went to that election, voted with all of however many of his kids in tow. And this got him media attention. He got a picture that was published in the New York Times. And the New York Times article got him the attention of Parent Magazine. And that is what got him the original hour-long special, 14 Kids and Pregnant Again. Discovery, who was eventually the people who picked up this documentary, produced the hour-long documentary about the logistics of raising 14 kids. And the Duggars saw this as, quote, a window of opportunity to share with the world that children are a blessing from God. As we talked about last time, there's a number of kind of successive 1-hour specials. There was 5 of them altogether. And eventually, it led to a television series called 17 Kids and Counting, which premiered in 2008. I also find that timeline to be interesting. The first special was called 14 Kids and Pregnant Again. And by the time it was picked up for an actual series, it was 17 Kids and Counting, which just... Mm-hmm. That's too many kids.
That's too many kids.
That's too many kids in a short period of time.
Yeah, it's too many.
From Jill's book, quote, I was excited at the thought of all those people across America watching and getting to see Christian values lived out on a secular television channel, and maybe inspiring them to live for Christ. It wasn't just random strangers who were watching us and taking note of how we lived. One day, we were told that we were soon going to host a special visitor for lunch. A delegation of IBLP leaders from Romania was visiting the United States, traveling with several of the main leaders, including Mr. Gothard himself. They're going to be in the neighborhood, and they're going to visit us for lunch. So Bill Gothard came to the Duggars' house and had lunch with them.
And this was an episode?
I don't know that this was an episode.
Okay.
This was because they were famous, though. This was
Okay.
because of their TV show that they were put on the map, really. Again, from Jill's book, quote, in my opinion, having such a man of God visit our home was more impressive than being greeted by a fan at the airport, and even more impressive than a visit by the president himself. When it was finally my turn to meet Bill, I thrust my hand out and blurted the words I'd been rehearsing for days. It wasn't for you, Mr. Gothard. I likely wouldn't be here. My parents always told me that they would stop having children after they had twins, number 2 and 3. I'm number 4, so thank you for teaching them that children really are a blessing from the Lord. I want to pause again. This is another weird evangelical tactic that they specifically put on kids. The version that I was most exposed to was my best friend was an aborted baby.
Yeah.
This is kind of the inverse of that, of because of you, Mr. Gothard, I exist, so I need to thank you. I need to credit you for my entire life.
Yeah.
Which, that is an insane thing for a kid to say.
I get this, or I got this as a kid because I'm adopted.
Oh, yeah.
And people, like kids, would say to me, because they would get this from their parents, would say to me, like, you should be pro-life because you wouldn't be here otherwise. Which is the strangest
That's such a bizarre thing to say
world.
to a person.
Person at all, right?
The whole last human experience.
Right. And I would be like, well, but same to you. like
Yeah, truly.
Right? It's the weirdest argument. Like, it's so strange. So, yeah, like having kids say that to each other, or this idea of like, thanks, or I wouldn't be here. It's like, well, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
it brings up really interesting and complex philosophical questions
right.
that a 10-year-old is not able to really grapple with.
Right. Which
is fair to the 10-year-old, but what a weird like burden to put on a children to be like, your entire existence is because of this person who doesn't know anything about
right,
you.
And it's also like, thanks, tequila. like
I guess I technically owe my existence to a fire. Like, right. I don't.
Or like for me, it's like Thanksgiving break where some teenagers got together. Like,
yeah.
What it's all meaningless.
But in the specific like theological tradition, it also is elevating this person.
Right.
I owe this person my life.
My life.
Which is an insane concept for like a 10-year-old or whatever to try to grasp.
Right.
Back to the book, quote, from then on, we found ourselves invited to a whole bunch of IBLP events. We were starting to become a model family, again, capital M, capital F.
What's Jill's angle here in this book?
Good question. I have a couple notes about this throughout the script. We'll kind of go back and forth about it. In this point, she's writing about her experience as a kid. And so she is critical of these experiences now as an adult. She is not a fan of IBLP.
Okay.
God bless. But she's writing like, as a kid, I was really taken by this. It felt like I was meeting a man of God.
Okay. Hold on, Sprite break.
I think this next quote really exemplifies it. She is writing this quote knowing the implications of what she's saying, but also writing it through the lens of a child, right? So it's this interesting, like, dual... There's two layers to this quote. My eldest sister, Jana, was personally invited by Mr. Gothard to visit IBLP headquarters in Chicago and work there for a while. Which, yeah, they were in Chicago for a while. I looked it up. They're not here anymore.
Jana.
That's not how you make a J in sign language.
Okay, they were here in Chicago?
Yeah, the IBLP headquarters was in Chicago for a while. I'll cut this too. It's good that they're not, because I was really considering. We were new to the inner workings of IBLP, but we knew enough to understand why it was only Jana who got invited. She was the only elder Duggar girl who was a blonde, and everybody knew that Mr. Gothard liked blonde girls. We joke about it, calling Jana, quote, one of Gothard's girls. It didn't occur to me at all how strange, unsafe, or unwise this was. You had a reaction to this.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Say more.
What do you mean one of Gothard's girls?
Mm-hmm.
This is feeling very FLDS.
And FLDS is?
Fundamental Latter-day Saint.
Fundamentalist Mormons.
Yeah. Mormons.
Yeah. We'll talk about cults as well kind of throughout this episode. You asked at the start of this podcast, and it's a question we've explored a couple different ways, like, is evangelicalism a cult? And the answer is, it's complicated. For IBLP, the answer is just yes. Like, This is just a cult.
Okay.
And Bill Gothard is, and was especially, very much a cult leader.
Yeah.
This is just primed for abuse.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it sounds like she's recognizing that.
Yes. Jill Duggar, in hindsight, is grappling with this in this book. But in the moment, that's just the world that you're in. It's kind of like, oh yeah, just Bill Gothard likes blonde girls, of course. Yeah, just favoritism, not weird sexual predators.
Right.
Which Bill Gothard absolutely is. Allegedly. Again, Bill Gothard can eat my whole ass.
Right.
As the show grew...
Pejoratively.
Yes, pejoratively.
Yeah.
As the show grew in popularity, so did their standing with the IBLP. From the documentary Shiny Happy People, quote, for Scientology, the gateway for most people is Tom Cruise. In a lot of ways, that's exactly what the Duggars were for Bill Gothard. All the weird shit people gawk at from the Duggars comes from IBLP teachings. Editing Jake here, there's not really a better spot to add this. One of our fabulous readers pointed out to me that while the Duggars were framed through the lens of a freak show, something to gawk at, as we discussed last episode, many of their behaviors are now a marketable demographic, especially through trad wives, women online, mostly on TikTok from what I've seen, who exemplify the classic stay-at-home wife, often wearing vintage dresses and making their own bread while their husbands are off at work. There is a lot to be said and critiqued of these influencers, but for our purposes today, it is relevant that the Duggars of 19 Kids and Counting would fit in perfectly into the world of trad wives, even while trad wives do not get treated with the same what that the Duggars did. So part 3, kind of the thrust of this episode, what do they believe? Before getting fully into the actual beliefs, we have to talk about the way that language functions in the IBLP world. We talked about this before. Institute and Basic Life Principles and Advanced Training Institute means nothing. Mm-hmm. These are just words. These are just phrases. And then to shorten it more, IBLP, right? This is such an abstraction of language. ATI is abstraction of language. Bill Gothard loves an acronym. They also love a euphemism. We've talked about the slippery language that Dobson uses. IBLP does that in spades. And it's this doublespeak that is present in so much of the materials. This is a cult tactic. This is a way to isolate you from the rest of the world. Someone in this world says IBLP, they know not only what it means literally, they know what it means culturally, they know the expectations, they know who Bill Gothard is and how it functions. If I were to tell... I asked my mom about this, actually, when prepping for this episode, like, do you know anything about IBLP? Her answer was like, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. An outsider, even someone who's in some ways relatively close to that, I don't know that I knew anyone specifically in IBLP. I wouldn't be surprised if the people I grew up with had some IBLP influences. But if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
It's a way to isolate you. It's also a way to distort some things in your brain. We'll continue to talk about the slipperiness of this language. According to them, their beliefs rest on 7 principles, the Institute for Basic Life Principles. These 7 principles, 7 values, Gothard said, helped ground people in a biblical worldview. From the current IBLP website, quote, throughout the pages of Scripture, principles are contained that provide guidance for our personal lives and relationships. These principles touch on every relational sphere, whether it be marriage, family, business, church, or government. All relationships encounter conflict at some point, and if this conflict is not resolved, psychological, spiritual, and even physical damage can result. But when we discover that our conflicts are connected to violations of God's principles, and we learn to adhere to these principles through the power of the Holy Spirit, a resolution can be experienced that produces peace in our daily interactions. When we learn to see and respond to life's challenges from God's viewpoint and choose His grace over our natural inclinations, everything changes. That's a little bit of a longer quote. 2 things I want to pull from that. First, let's look at I have some quotes highlighted. Mm-hmm. When we discover that our conflicts are connected in violation to God's principles, and learn to adhere to these principles through the power of the Holy Spirit, a resolution can be experienced. I am obviously not a Christian. This is not a thing I've made no secret of in this podcast. But in general, I could agree with that or a similar sentiment. Right? In therapy, especially in couples therapy, I help people identify their values and help them live in greater accordance with those values. If there's times of conflict or tension, we try to look at what values are in conflict with each other. I don't think that's a horrible thing, a horrible perspective to have. But that last part, when we choose His grace over our natural inclination, everything changes. This speaks to something we've talked a lot about. You cannot trust yourself. Your quote-unquote natural inclinations are bad and sinful, and you need to learn to quiet those and listen to someone else. Listen to the voice of God that just happened to be translated through Bill Gothard. This connects to other insidious phrases that come from, I would say, out of context Bible verses like, the heart is deceitful above all things, and trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your understanding. 2 sentiments expressed over and over and over again in evangelical spaces, which often serve as mantras for self-loathing. But also, that longer quote that I said kind of means nothing. Mm-hmm. Right? The point of these values is so you know what your values are. It's kind of a circular reasoning thing.
Right.
How do we know what God's principles are? Well, don't worry. That's what Bill Gothard is here for. let's look at the 7 principles just as they are. The 7 principles they identify are design, how and why God made me, responsibility, cleansing the conscience, suffering, seeing how reaction to offenses produces fuel, not restoration, responding to the hurts inflicted upon me, ownership, properly handling material possessions, freedom, escaping the bondage of moral impurity, success, how to fulfill our God-given purposes, and, I think most importantly, authority, our response to God-ordained leadership. So design, responsibility, suffering, ownership, freedom, success, and authority. I went to the IBLP website to do some research for this episode.
Oh, no.
My brain is broken and will be more so throughout this podcast. I do this for you for free. I have said a number of times, like, these words mean nothing. Each one of these principles has 2 different YouTube videos attached to them. One of like a panel of white guys talking about it and one about more like personal experiences with them. Each of them is a masterclass of saying absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. I literally have 2 pages of quotes from this and none of them mean anything.
Right.
Design, how and why God made me. You should figure out the purpose for which we were created. Okay? Mm-hmm. What is that purpose? They don't get into that. We can tell through their teaching what they mean by that, and typically the purpose is to reproduce and pretty like a gender essentialist lens, but they don't really talk about that. I find it interesting. Suffering is one of the principles.
Yeah.
Again, evangelicals have such a martyrdom complex. Christians are the majority religion in the United States, but evangelicals will redefine who is a Christian or a real Christian over and over again until they become such a persecuted minority, right? They don't count Catholics as part of it. They don't count Mormons as part of it. I grew up Southern Baptist, so any Protestant denomination that affirmed gay people weren't real Christians, and it's just this naring and naring and naring. And when people were like, hey, you're wrong, or when they present you as a freak show, like we talked about, that's suffering, and that's good. That's an indication that you're actually doing God's work, because people will come at you. If you are persecuted, that means you're on the right path. But I think most importantly, authority is one of their values. And where these principles are kind of a masterclass in saying nothing, authority is like the primary value here. This is the thing we've come to with Dobson again. It's about control. And in the back of my mind, I can hear like my evangelical training trying to like combat against these things. And I think that's part of the reason that I try to have so much nuance, to the point where sometimes I feel like I give Dobson a little bit too much credit on things, because I'm kind of arguing against my trained evangelical self. To say they just want control feels ungenerous, but when you look at the actions that these people have taken, we look at how these beliefs actually manifest, it's just about control, especially for IBLP.
Right. How do you think Dobson, or do you know, how does Dobson feel about IBLP?
It's an excellent question. The last part of this episode, the script is like Dobson and IBLP.
Okay.
For a little bit of a spoiler alert, they don't talk about each other.
Oh, interesting.
In no formal context, at least that I could find. Readers, if you know something, let me know. But I actually tried to do some deep research on this. Dobson and Bill Gothard never collaborated in a professional sense.
Weird.
On the James Dobson Family Institute website, there's no mention of Bill Gothard. There's no mention of IBLP. For as similar as they are in their worldview and the projects that they're working towards, they do not cross over.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think it's just 2 cult leaders.
Yeah.
Right? And why would you collaborate with someone when they're stepping on your territory? Mm-hmm. I also think they looked at each other with a little bit of disdain. I think in between us recording our first episode and publishing our first episode, there was like 6 months for me to try to figure out what the fuck it means to have a podcast. And in that time, a incredible person and another content creator, DL Mayfield, and their husband, Crispin Mayfield, started talking about the experience of growing up as a quote-unquote strong-willed child. And their initial thing was, I'm making content about James Dobson every day until a documentary is produced. And I do think probably focus on the family documentary is probably worthwhile. But part of the reason that I think it is, when it is made, because I do think it's a question of when, not if, it will look a lot different than Shiny Happy People, is Dobson is less of an odious person specifically, even though I think his beliefs are just as odious, and I think in some ways he's a more destructive person. There's a lot of assumptions on my end. I think Dobson would look a little bit like down his nose at Bill Gothard because Bill Gothard has like sex scandals and is a little bit crude and a little bit like gross in his beliefs. Even though the beliefs are fundamentally the same thing, I think there's some tension between them. Again, a lot of speculation. They have not talked about each other in any public way that I could find. But what they believe, IBLP specifically, but also Dobson, which we've talked about a lot, is about control. It's about ultimate and unconditional surrender to authority. First and foremost, IBLP is an extremist fundamentalist organization. Like Dobby Boy, most of their beliefs come back to a gender essentialist lens. To understand their beliefs, you have to buy into the fact that men and women are fundamentally different, inherently different, in ways that seem like common sense to white American Protestants. Men have a pee-pee, women have a vagina. Perhaps most obviously with the Duggars, women's main purpose is to have kids. Not even to be a mother. It is impossible for Michelle to be kind of this like nurturing from birth to 18 kind of a hands-on mother. I don't mean this to be pejorative to her, but from how I understand the function and talk about her, she's basically just a human incubator. Also, all the reason Duggar girls had to wear dresses of a certain length was to not tempt boys.
That's right.
If someone were to dress immodestly, a Duggar would yell Nike and thereby signal to everyone to avert their gaze, specifically the boys. I don't think I once heard anyone talk about men being dressed immodestly, which now as a gay man, let me tell you, men can dress immodestly.
Yeah, that's right.
Women were meant to be men's helpmate. They do all the emotional labor and housekeeping so men can be successful. I have some handouts for us.
Yay, I love a handout.
In the IBLP homeschooling curriculum, and again, curriculum is so generous, instead of teaching like science or like any kind of interesting math, they had kids do this exercise.
Oh God, I'm going to really hate this. Oh no.
These are 6 pictures of women's clothing. And Brooke, can you read the title up top?
Can you identify the eye traps in these pictures? What could you do to alter them?
So in these 6 pictures, it is women dressed, I would say actually like pretty conservatively, all things considered.
Extremely conservatively.
But the point of this is to have kids essentially slut shame girls. What in this would be tempting to boys?
Oh God.
What might arouse desire in boys?
And all the women are faceless.
All the women are faceless. That is an important point in this too.
So number 1 is a woman in a black dress that is down past her knees, but it has lace at the top. That's the eye trap.
I think so.
Yeah. So you'd have to have that be opaque.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, are they all eye traps?
They are. I don't know what number 2 is. I've thought about this. I don't understand.
I think number 2, I don't even know. It's clearly 1992, and she's got a skirt below her knees, but I think it's because there's lots of patterns on it.
I think so.
And she's got jewelry on. Oh, she's got this long necklace, and the necklace goes between her boobs. Do you think that's it?
I think it is because there are patterns and jewelry. It is drawing attention to your body.
Yeah.
And anything that draws attention to the body is bad. That's also why they hate dancing.
Oh, okay.
Because you are moving your body and you're drawing attention to your body.
Yeah. Now, number 3, I honestly don't know.
I don't even know how to describe this.
Number 3 is maybe the shoes.
The shoes. I think it's the fact. So number 3 is, look at our TikTok. We'll put pictures up of this. I hate James Dobson on TikTok. It's like this like crop top with a additional shirt underneath and then a dress. I think it's the fact that it's a crop top.
That's not a crop top, hun. These are dresses from the 90s.
Sure.
That is a full dress.
Yes.
Opaque. And that is a big, huge piece of lace that lays on top of it.
But I think the fact that it cuts off by the boobs is the thing, like a crop top would. I think that is the thing that feels...
But it's like a pilgrim.
It's so... Right. It's so conservative. This is just me guessing.
My God.
Maybe it's the fact that it's lace and they think lace is inherently sexy.
No, I think it's the shoes because no one else has feet.
That's true.
Except for number 6, who also clearly the problem is the shoes and the tights.
And the fact that it's like comes anywhere near the breasts.
Yeah, but that's also a pilgrim collar.
Is it? Oh my
Yeah.
God. You were correct. You're so much more tapped into this than I am.
Well,
Number 4 is the fact that there's just a slit
Yeah, even though it's below the knees, that's a big slit for a big slut.
Which also, the slit only goes to like the knee.
Yeah, I mean, all of these were worn by your mom in the office in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Number 5 is the bow at the boobs, obviously. Mm-hmm. And the coy little hand.
I think it's the hair thing too, yeah.
Yeah. And the hip hop.
So
Number 6 is the fact that she's pointing right at her vajay.
I also think it's the fact that she has a waist.
Oh, yeah.
She has like it's a little, not call it an hourglass, I don't think is totally accurate, but the fact that there's any kind of waist, again, it's drawing attention to the body.
And then I think number 7 is the fact that her titties are out and she's wearing...
it's just a full nip.
And she's just wearing a full merkin. I think that's the problem for that one. That's the eye trap, I think.
This is what was in the homeschooling curriculum. This is why I say to call it a curriculum.
Wow.
Is generous.
Can you imagine little Ginger Duggar having to look at this as part of school?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yikes.
I can't imagine that.
Yikes.
So it's not just modesty. If you find modesty empowering, go off, right? There are people who find not letting people have access to their bodies as an empowering thing. I love that for you. This is not an anti-modesty thing. If you find being a slut empowering, go off. There's, again, a range of human experiences. But to instill in children, not only essentially like looking to slut shame people and ingraining slut shaming, but also these are women. There's not an equivalent thing for men. It's that women are inherently different and temptresses, and you need to keep an eye out for them. Mm-hmm. Also, the fundamental belief of Bill Gothard, IBLP, the Duggars, though, was that of authority and control, most, I think, acutely and most widespread expressed through this.
Oh, yeah, the umbrella.
The umbrella of protection.
We've seen the umbrella of protection.
We've talked about it before.
Well, Dobby likes this, too.
Dobson also does like this.
Yeah. Everybody likes this. Who doesn't love this?
For the like 2 people in our audience who doesn't know what we're talking about, Brooke, can you describe this?
Oh, sure. This is the umbrella of protection. And it makes everyone feel really, really safe. Uh-huh. And the biggest umbrella is Christ. Mm-hmm. And then the next biggest umbrella is husband.
Who's directly underneath Christ.
Right under Christ. And since Christ can't live in your home and Christ isn't a person on earth, guess who gets to be in charge?
Yes.
Guess who's a little proxy for Christ?
I literally have in my notes, don't take this too literally, God isn't real, so men are in charge. You can believe God is real. I'm not, whatever. But like, God is not physically in your home.
Yeah,
Christ is not physically in your home. So who gets to make the chart? Who gets to make the decisions? It's men.
He gets to protect the family and provide for the family. Under husband comes wife. And she gets to manage the home and the children.
This isn't just division of gender roles. This is a specific gender hierarchy that is fundamental to this belief system.
And gross.
And horrible. And really gross. We've talked about this as well in various ways, in various times. To have different roles is fine, but this deprives specifically women of autonomy over their lives, over their decisions, in order to keep men in charge.
Also, once again, said for the gabillionth time on this podcast, if this works for you and for your family and for your household, go off, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we're not here to say, this is disgusting, no, even though I just did say you. But this is like, no one should do this, blah, blah. Like, I don't need Candace, Cameron, Burke, coming on here or whatever the hell her name is and being like, this, I like it this way. Like, then do it, right? But the idea that this is the mandate and this is that you are anti-Christian or that you are failing your family or failing God by not doing this, that's where I think it's problematic.
At some point, I really want to do an episode about like power dynamics. Mm-hmm. I think growing up evangelical and now being pretty involved in like kink and BDSM, where power dynamics are inherently a part of that, mm-hmm. and being a therapist who specializes in working with those relationships, I actually think I have a lot to say about that. But fundamentally, the power dynamics in kink relationships are fake. Like, they're meaningful to people, and I don't want to dismiss that. But in therapy, I'm going to ask you, what do you think about this? And you don't turn to your partner and say, what do I think about this?
Right.
You think for yourself. You make decisions for yourself. You don't outsource that work. And that's what this umbrella of protection system is doing. If you want to have a power dynamic in your relationship, God bless. But you are still a full-ass person, and this does not give you the ability to be a full-ass person. Mm-hmm. It's about total control. Whenever the question of, like, why do the Duggars do X, the answer is because that's what Jim Bob wants. Mm-hmm. There's a quote from the book, Counting the Cost. Quote, "My dad likes long hair, so we try to keep our hair long. It's not because the Bible says so or women have long hair. My dad likes long hair, and that's why we do it." And he can base it on scripture or whatever, but ultimately it's his preference.
Yeah, like in the FLDS, they are allowed to have certain hairstyles that go up into about the 70s.
Oh, wow.
Because that is like the guy that runs the FLDS, that's like what he knew and what he liked. Feathered hairstyles up until about the 70s, until he died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not because the Bible was like, hey...
1960s are cool, 70s are bad.
Yeah, right? You know, it's like, it's all so arbitrary.
This absolute authority is taught and reinforced everywhere in every topic of life, and it is the key to understanding IBLP teaching specifically, but also I think evangelicalism as both a theology, but more importantly to me, as a political movement. Children and women submit to men, and children submit to their parents even when the kids become adults and or get married. Men submit to Bill Gothard. From Shiny Happy People, quote, "Gothard turned every father into a cult leader and every home into an island." I think that is such a clear distillation of what the end results of these things are, and also why I think they were attractive, specifically to men. A boyfriend, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, said that Jim Bob has a pregnancy fetish, and that's why there's so many kids. And I do think there is something to the fact that he just wants to get his rocks off as much as possible. But also, kids are his property for life. More kids means more power, more followers. And you see this on a large scale with Bill Gothard. The more people who were recruited into IBLP, the more money and influence he had. That's what they believe, more than anything else. Part 4, the cost. This creates a culture not only open to abuse, but absolutely primed for it. Again, from Happy Shiny People, everything about IBLP's teaching sets you up to be the perfect victim. Confronting your abuser, that's not submitting to authority. Going to others for help is stirring up contention among the brotherhood. This will shock you, I'm sure, but Billy Boy is a huge fan of spanking and corporal punishment. Duggars referred to it as encouragement. Another terribly perfect example of the twisting of language. If a kid was acting out of line, this is my best Michelle Duggar voice would say, "Do you need some encouragement?" And that would be, "Do you want to get your ass beat?"
Yeah.
But it's said both in a tone of voice and in specific words that softens the blow a little bit. And also doesn't give kids language to understand what's happening to them.
She always would be like, "Okay, we're going to sit over here on this blanket now."
So interesting. Talk to me about that. What do you know about blanket training?
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought it was time out.
Brooke, it's so much worse. And I'm so sorry. We must discuss blanket
What is
training.
it?
Blanket training, and this is the thing that Michelle Duggar promoted in her books and her speeches and practice with the kids. You take a baby around 6 months or so, and you put him on a blanket. And then you put some desirable object just out of reach off the blanket. When the kid understandably reaches for it, you hit them and tell them to be still. They would say spank or whatever. You hit the child and tell them to be still. And then when they reach for it again, because they are 6 months old, you hit them again. Over and over and over again until their strong will is broken. That's what blanket training is. When you said last episode, like, the kids seemed a little bit more automatically programmed to put on a smile and a facade, this training starts, this abuse happens from the early stages.
Whoa. Yikes.
I think I have this a little bit later, but in the Happy Shiny People documentary, there's a clip. It's a very good documentary that makes you feel horrible. There's a clip that I found the hardest for me to sit with. It's a speaker, I don't know who it is, who talks about spanking, and he asks for a volunteer from the audience, and some parent gives his child up to this guy, and he does a live spanking demonstration on this kid. And he talks about how you can both discipline and encourage a kid. So he's spanking this kid on stage in front of people and saying, like, God loves you so much. And then spanking demonstration is done. He asks for a hug from the kid. Kid is talking to a stranger, gives him like a half-hearted hug. And the guy goes, I don't think that was a good enough hug, and starts spanking him again. It is the most disturbing thing I think I'd seen in that. I think I knew most of the other contours of the story. That just like really
I mean, that's just that is just straight up abuse.
It's straight up abuse, and I don't have any other way of saying it. It's just sexual.
Right.
At that point.
Oof.
In the principles that we talked about a little bit earlier, we didn't get into all the details. They talk about not becoming bitter against people who've hurt you. So you can't just be bitter and blame someone who's abusive. In this teaching, you are trained to think about, how did you contribute to this problem? And they talk about like the rule of crying out. Unless you cried out to God when it was happening, you bear some of the burden. You bear some of the responsibility. Because obviously, whenever something bad happens, people respond in one set way, and that's how you know that it was wrong. IBLP has had some homeschooling curriculum through their Advanced Training Institute, though again, calling it curriculum is euphemistic to the point of being negligent. One person in the Shiny Happy People documentary recounts only learning math up to fractions because her dad said fractions are used in baking.
God.
They love the Creation Museum at the IBLP.
Oh, yeah.
The exercise about learning how to slut shame. This whole culture, again, I'm trying to be generous. I'm trying to find any other explanation for this. But truly, I find the only, at least outcome of this, even if that's not their explicit intention, is it creates a culture to protect abusers. Josh Duggar was exploiting children since he was a child. When he was caught molesting his siblings, he's giving a slap on the wrist. And a very stern talking to by a cop who, just by the way, happened to be a personal friend of Jim Bob and just happened to later be sent to jail for possessing child sexual abuse material.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. There's so much protecting. Did you see the clip of Michelle talking about how, like, we never have the little girls sitting on the laps of the older boys?
Yes. I don't know that I have this in this script. I have it in my notes somewhere else. Like, a big thing is, like, don't let boys change the diapers of their sisters, which is so fucked up in so many ways.
Right.
Like, it's assuming that every man is a sexual predator, but also assuming that every girl just by existing is tempting men's innate predatory behaviors. It fucks up everybody.
Yeah.
Obviously, women bear a ton of the like emotional fallout from this, and I do not mean to minimize that, but also, like, imagine growing up being told you are inherently a predator. You are inherently, like, if just left to your own devices, you're going to abuse people. And it's natural, so you kind of get left off the hook. So it's, again, I don't mean to both sides this, but like, oh my God, it's so fucked up for everybody.
Yeah. But then afterwards, I mean, you're right, but then afterwards, there's tons of footage of him with his sisters sitting on his lap.
Yes.
Right? And so it's like, okay, this is just a culture of protecting the boys in this family. Mm-hmm. You know?
Definitely. The personal costs are painful enough on their own and worthy of condemnation in their own right. But, unfortunately, we must talk about the collective cost as well. In the medium view of things, Gothard had a number of troubled teen facilities and other training programs for teens that were incredibly abusive. In Happy Shiny People, one of the people talks about being sent to a prayer room, which is just solitary confinement.
Oh, God.
As a teenager, 4 days. Because one of the other kids decided they didn't like them, decided they did something wrong. I think in this specific instance, they wore a shoe with a heel, maybe like an inch of a heel, but that was too sexual. Bill Gothard teachings were, and unfortunately still are, popular. They are a big part of the broader evangelical political movement. Once again, we have to talk about recurring character of the podcast, Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee, Brooke, what do you know about Mike Huckabee's
Stop
career?
asking me what I know about Mike Huckabee.
I'm just so curious. Like, I know my brain is filled with too many facts about Mike Huckabee. He's been a present figure in my life for a long time. And I'm just so curious to know if your brain, which is less broken than mine is, what do you know about this fucker?
My brain is broken in different ways than yours. And I don't know very much about Mike Huckabee.
Fair.
I know he has a daughter, Sarah Huckabee, and she's a pain in the ass too.
She sure is.
I know Mike Huckabee is not. No, who's the one they think is the Zodiac killer? Ted Cruz.
That's Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is problematic in different ways. Mike Huckabee was former governor of Arkansas, which is where the Duggars started.
Yeah.
He was father to present governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah.
She was former press secretary for Donald Trump in the first term and is now governor of Arkansas.
Yeah.
Political dynasty there. And Mike Huckabee is our current ambassador to Israel. We first talked about him
That's right. Trump did that to him.
on our podcast for the Left Behind series.
That's right.
He worked very closely with the Duggars, and especially Josh Duggar, and defended him in 2015 when the initial report about his molestation of his siblings came out.
He did?
Yes. He said he felt most bad for the parents, which is wild. And then when someone asked him about it, he said, "Lady, you don't know what you're talking about. I know this family. Get the fuck..." He didn't say fuck. Get the heck out of here.
Ew, I kind of remember this now.
I hate Mike Huckabee.
Ew.
Josh Duggar was hired by the Family Research Council.
That's what it was. That's what it was. I thought it was focused on the family.
Well, so we've talked about the Family Research Council before.
Yeah.
They are a scummy organization with insane political influence that were founded by James Dobson.
Oh.
James Dobson is all over this story. Even though, as we talked about, he's not explicitly part of the IBLP.
Did Dobby have anything to say about Josh Duggar?
Not as far as I can tell. Not a single word. You talked about this before. The reason that families like the Duggars have so many kids is, in part, they are part of a movement called the Quiverful Movement. I will say up top, the Duggars deny being part of the Quiverful Movement, which is just...
They do?
Yeah, it's absurd. Clearly they are. The Quiverful Movement gets their name from Bible verses, from Psalm 127, verses 3 through 5. Quote, "Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their opponents in court."
Do they bother denying this?
I think mostly because it's a bad look.
But they themselves said that they want to be having all the babies.
Correct. I cannot speak to why the Duggars have tried to distance themselves from it. I think it's a little bit nonsensical. The Quiverful Movement has an explicitly political angle.
Oh.
Having as many kids as possible is a political project to literally outbreed their political opponents and repopulate America with the good ones.
Oh.
And it doesn't end with kids. The whole insular ecosystem evangelicals created, from homeschooling to anti-abortion protests to medias like Adventures in Odyssey and Skillet, they keep their kids trapped in this culture and train them to be cultural warriors. I think this is a fairly significant reason why there's a general regression in youths. Gen Z men are more conservative than millennial men, and I think this is a non-insignificant part of it. This is where, unfortunately, we have to take another tangent to talk about Generation Joshua.
Generation Joshua?
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
I'm very sad that you asked. One of the main reasons I started this podcast was to explore the ways that evangelicalism, and James Dobson specifically, has shaped and largely ruled American politics. The Duggars came into prominence when Jim Bob ran for U.S. Senate. Josh was a lobbyist for the Family Research Council. In the intro to this show, I mentioned that James Dobson has been a spiritual advisor to every Republican president since and including Reagan. Generation Joshua is a continuation of this project. And personally, I find it scary as fuck, and also really embarrassing. According to their website, because of course they have a website, quote, "The vision of Generation Joshua is to assist parents to raise up the next generation of Christian leaders and citizens, equipped to positively influence the political processes of today and tomorrow." They have clubs across the country, organized by political district. They have a civics curriculum. I have a lot of notes about this. They have a suggested reading list that feels like it was a dumb Christian nationalist idea of what like good literature is, and that probably actually is what happened. They have a whole section about books that are hostile to Christianity, and it's just 3 books, including the Communist Manifesto. Importantly, they have camps, like summer camps for kids called I Govern. little I, capital G, like iPod branding used to be.
Oh God, that's so stupid.
It is a combination of stupid and silly and also like horrible and terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's both in equal measure. I govern our summer camps that are basically model UN for Christian nationalists. It's like a week-long adventure where you role play as the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate and President and talk about how you can get legislation passed. And it teaches kids the inner workings of government. And it would be really easy to make fun of it because what a bunch of fucking nerds it is. But also, it prepares kids to take action and be involved in the political process in a really informed way. I think that can be a really powerful tool for affecting change. Generation Joshua has values like the sanctity of life, anti-abortion, again, slippery language. Personal responsibility means anti-social security. Traditional family, anti-queer people. Limited government, anti-regulation for corporations. Religious freedom, only for Christians to discriminate against people. Economic freedom, hypercapitalism. Justice for all, mainly known as LOL, no. Compassion for the poor and vulnerable, meaning let churches feed the poor, not the government. Generation Joshua was founded in 2003 as a division of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. This might tickle something in your brain, Brooke, because we talked about them. The HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association, was founded by enemy of the podcast, Michael Ferris. We talked about him in our Dobson versus Public Education episode. Michael Ferris only became interested in homeschooling in the first place because of a Dobson radio broadcast.
Yeah, didn't we hear Dobson talking to Michael Ferris?
We sure did.
Yeah.
It is oversimplistic to say all of this is Dobson's fault, but also all of this is Dobson's fault.
God, I hate him.
He's the worst.
God.
So yes, I blame him for this too. Brooke, I'm going to ask you one more time. Do you know Joshua from the Bible? The story of Joshua at all? I don't imagine that you do. It's okay that you don't. But
no.
Okay. A little bit of biblical lore here. The Jewish people were slaves in Egypt, which is not a historical fact. It actually probably did not happen. But in the Bible, the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt, and Moses led them out of bondage.
Yeah.
Part of the Red Sea, famously, the whole movie about it.
Yeah, I know that part.
And he was going to lead them to the promised land that would one day be called Israel. But also, only kind of. Again, according to the myth, when they got close to the promised land, they sent in spies to be like, what is it like? And the spies came back. 10 of them said, the people are there. It's bad. You can't do it. It's not worth it. 2 of them said, no, with God promised it to us. We can do it.
And by it, I mean take over the promised land and turn it into the nation of Israel.
One of those 2 spies was Joshua. Because of their lack of faith in God, God punished the Jewish people to wander in the desert for 40 years. So they get out of Israel, or they get out of Egypt, and they have to wander for 40 years. And Moses disobeyed God one time. We're not getting into it. So God says that Moses would not enter the promised land. So after 40 years, Moses died, and they were getting ready to enter the promised land. And the new leader of the Jewish people, the one who was going to lead them into Canaan, what would be Israel, was Joshua.
Oh.
So Joshua, as a biblical figure, genocided the people of Canaan to take over the land that was promised to them. Generation Joshua, they want to do that in America. Less violently, explicitly. They want to build a movement to take America back, to turn it into the modern promised land. It is explicitly a movement to establish a theocratic Christian government based on white evangelical beliefs. That is their whole purpose.
Yikes.
I do not want to downplay the personal cost because, again, these aren't just abstract concepts. Real people have, are, and will suffer because of these beliefs. And also, it isn't just one individual cult leader like Bill Gothard. It is a political movement that has legs, that has power. These are the same people who created Project 2025, which is the governing principle of the United States government today.
Yeah.
Part 5, ending, and James Dobson. Josh Duggar is a predator who was finally arrested in 2019 and is currently in jail. May he rot forever.
How long is he in jail for?
I don't remember. I want to say 12 years, but I don't know that that's real.
And he went in 15, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
2015 is when the police report was released that he molested his siblings beforehand.
Editing Jake here with a little bit of clarity on the timeline. In 2015, a police report came out stating that Josh had molested some children, which included some of his siblings. In 2019, the Department of Homeland Security raided the car dealership that Josh Duggar owned, and that's when they found evidence of child sexual abuse material. In 2021, Josh Duggar was arrested and was sentenced to 12 years in prison later that year, where he is currently serving out his term.
Bill Gothard has been accused of sexual assault and rape by teenage girls he groomed in his role as president of IBLP.
Allegedly.
And so he stepped down from IBLP in 2014. They still use all of his materials and all of his ideas, but you can't find him really on the website other than, like, founder. From what I can tell, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar are low-key the head of the IBLP nowadays. Even as they are not officially the president, it's a different guy, but, like, they are definitely the most prominent figureheads of it. So even as their reality TV show life has fallen apart, they have a lot of influence, at least, in this religious movement.
Yeah, they're still prominent.
As we talked about, I wasn't able to find any public collaborations between Bill Gothard and James Dobson. Even as they are not public collaborators, they are two peas in a rotten pod. Even as I find Bill Gothard more personally objectionable, because as far as I know, James Dobson has not been accused of sexual assault, when you look into the things that they actually taught, they are almost fucking identical. Ultimate submission to parents, especially along gender lines. Corporal punishment to kids and babies to break their wills. Reactionary fundamentalism against social progression, especially of race and queer people. An important side note, all of the materials that I read and looked through, the videos that I watched, not a single non-white person appeared in any of them. It is the whitest thing I've seen in a long time. The amount of ways they spelled Kaylee in this. I try not to have my assessments just fueled by my reactionary emotions. I try to be measured and precise. So my measured and precise take is this. I hope that Bill Gothard chokes on a saltine one day, home, alone by himself because no one loves him, and as he is slowly fading out, he comes to terms with the fact that he has hurt so many people, how abusive and manipulative he is, and that if there is a hell, it is waiting for him. That is my measured response. Brooke, I hate Bill Gothard.
I hate Bill Gothard.
I hate Jim Bob Duggar. I'm not a fan of Michelle Duggar, and I hate James Dobson.
Do you want to know who I hate?
Say.
Bill Gothard.
Uh-huh.
Jim Dobson.
Yep.
Jim Bob Duggar.
It is interesting how many of them are named Jim, yeah?
Yeah, there's a lot of Jims. Josh Duggar.
Fuck that guy.
The policeman that talked to Josh Duggar. I can't say that I hate Michelle Duggar because I feel like she's a victim.
It's complicated.
Weird, complicated cycle of weirdness. But I'm not
a fan.
a fan. I hate the Department of Vague Institutes. I hate the basic principles of vagary and shittery and fuckery and basic life attitudes. Mm-hmm. Wait, what would you name a department? You're a cult leader, and you're going to have a real vague sounding institute. What are you going to name it?
I mean, I'd probably name it some, like, super PAC-y name, like conservative super PAC, where it's like Americans for Freedom and Prosperity. Right? Like, what does that mean?
You know what it means.
You know what it means. Nothing.
Freedom.
AFP.
Yeah, the AFP.
And that might actually be an actual one. I'm not trying to do a libel about it, but...
That's funny. All right, well, I hate everything, but not you.
Before we go, I do have to share one quote with you. I didn't know where to place it, but
Yeah.
it does feel like a decent place for us to end in both a depressed and somewhat humorous way. This is from the book Counting the Cost by Jill Duggar.
Yeah.
This is about some for early childhood. Quote, one evening during Bible time, Pops told us that the local gas station had started selling pornography. We were all shocked and upset, and my older brother Josh and John were determined to do something about it. Their mission was clear. They'd planned to buy a load of Christian tracts, small leaflets explaining how to become a Christian, and hand them out and try to persuade people to boycott the gas station.
Chick tracks!
I have no proof that it is Chick tracts, but in my head, it's canon.
Oh my god, and you know what? I bet it was the Spanish one. La Fantasma.
It's a little bit crazy to me how much this was not planned for me in this way, how much this episode intersects with so many different things that we've talked about here. And also how much, if we did this episode first, we couldn't get into this. Imagine me trying to do a whole tangent about what Chick tracks were to you a year ago.
No.
Anyway, on that note, goodbye, readers.
Bye, readers.
We love you very much. Take care of yourselves. Don't watch Duggar content if you're not ready for
No,
it.
don't watch any Duggar content. Blech.
I Hate James Dobson is a labor of love, spite. Written, recorded, edited, and produced by me, Jake. In this venture, I am honored to be joined by my amazing co-host, Brooke. If you're enjoying the show, please consider rating and reviewing it. And if you want to connect with us more, you can find us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube at I Hate James Dobson, and somehow still on Twitter at IHateJDobs. You can also email us at IHateJamesDobson@gmail.com. We have merch available at IHateJamesDobson.printful.me or on our website, IHateJamesDobson.com. Our theme music is by Mood Maze and the song is called Trendsetter. Special thanks, as always, to Drew, Lindsay, DJ, Jack, and Gary. And thank you, readers, for enjoying our show.
I'm sorry I forgot your name.
It's fine. It's a whatever. My grandma can't remember anyone's name. She'll cycle through every. At one point, she called me Taffy, which is a dog that's been dead longer than I've been alive. Welcome to I Hate James Dobson, a podcast that makes my arrow quiver.
Gross.
Start off strong.